All right, a few days ago, I was having a conversation with one of my friends who made me realize the connection between the words media and medium. And he said that the word medium referred to witchcraft, and that the word media is derived from that word. And so we all know that witchcraft is nothing more than mind manipulation, because the only thing that actually exists is consciousness. And all reality is a projection of consciousness, such as the media. And so the media that we know of is usually in two dimensions and is designed by consciousness as a means to store information so it can be retrieved by consciousness later on when another person perceives it to retrieve that information. So likewise, our world is three-dimensional, and it can also be concluded that our world has a code, the golden ratio, or phi, whatever you want to call it, or divine proportions. But the conclusion about it is that it's a code designed by the owner of this matrix. And this world is a matrix because it's in 3D in the same manner that the two-dimensional world is designed. For instance, we're watching a video, it's because someone designed a program to capture the video and someone designed a program to watch the video. Excuse me. And so our world was designed by the Messiah or the owner of all realities. And in higher dimensions, let's assume that we had to watch the movie Doctor Strange, and we had seen him traveling through tunnels of consciousness. And these tunnels will be there'll be geometric patterns along the way. The more complex they are, the more complex the world they reveal. And so I'm sure also we heard about gatekeepers or people who are supposed to be guardian or gods of various dimensions, even though these dimensions actually belong to one God, whom we all manifest, including the one which we live in. And so does the media which we use today. Actually, was started by prophets, people who were preserving or presenting, or intellectuals for that matter, or knowledge keepers. In this case, we can also say that they were angels. Angels are messengers, and a message refers to information, and information is what constructs consciousness, and consciousness is what creates reality. And so, what am I trying to say here is that all worlds are created by intelligent beings in order to test intelligence as well as character, which is another form of intelligence. And so the media that we use today is populated by all kinds of people, celebrities, sports, entertainers, as well as politicians, people who have no relevance to dimensions, or I would say that we're not interested as to why we exist in this world, how we can get ourselves out of it, or how we can improve our lives as human beings. These are just people who have been tricked by Western civilization to, I would say, to be the demons or the gatekeepers of this world, designed to prevent the Messiah from having relevance when it does come. Because, as I was saying, that the ancient forms of media that we were using were only populated by intellectuals, and those were prophets. And I explained that the prophet is an activist, a philosopher, a thinker, an intellectual, etc. It's someone who's talented in intellectual principles and uses media to communicate his knowledge to future as well as current generations. And this message will usually be encoded in order to be complex so the average person may not decipher it as well as change its content. And so there were high priests who were used to decipher this information. And these high priests were less gifted than the prophets themselves. And though they would usually need prophets to help them decipher their messages. This culture was practiced in Jerusalem, in Kemet, Nubia, and all other black civilizations of ancient times. And like I said, the whole purpose was to work out was to explain the truth behind our reality as to why this media or this street world was created. In other words, for it to come into existence, as I was saying, we have to entrap as many minds as possible, such as if you were to put people to at a cinema to watch a movie or a story, and this story will be used to test their attitudes as well as characters. Suppose you'll put we're saying that if you can entrap, okay, let's start by saying that if you were to be a parent or a king with subjects whom you cannot really trust, people who didn't do anything to earn their existence as well as prominence or positions. And so you wanted to test their loyalty to see if maybe you can preserve some as well as, or change the order in which they are structured or the hierarchy. And so you do this by testing their characters, by creating a virtual world, in this form, a false, a virtual reality or a form of a media, which you can use to test their intelligence. In our world, we can say that you can sit people in a cinema and put something like detectors across their bodies or everywhere else to test their reactions. And so all this would be done in order to judge you according to their reactions. And so our world is also exactly like that, because there are many other higher dimensions apart from this one. Ours is just a media at which our consciousness or attitudes can be played out before the Messiah comes in, because there will first be a great fallout. In other words, people will be exposed for who they are. Such as currently today, people are taking vaccine left, right, and center, trying to be relevant, as well being returned to the old past laws or the old slavery systems, where people will deny the very existence, their very existence. And so here we are in this world populated by false forms of um, preachers and teachers in the form of politicians, celebrities, religious leaders, etc. And all this is designed by the Western world to corrupt our minds, so that we fail in this test, which I just explained, which is played out on us by the Messiah. As a matter of fact, there are many white people named Michael, and they cannot even explain that to you as to who was this original Western Michael, because it's a spiritual character whom they've learned about from various spiritual texts or media. And they are fearful of this Michael, who's a time traveler and whose role is to judge his own creation, which is the reflection, which are his own reflection, the black race as well as many others who are created from blacks. And so the idea of angels and demons is based on this notion of manipulating media in order to help re-establish the old order, which the Messiah seeks to achieve in the first place, by creating these worlds in order to test our character and rearrange the hierarchy which makes up his biological makeup, or what he is or who he is. On one hand, we have white people who are used as means to test black people. And so given that a majority of black people were to fail, some of the white people who succeed in deceiving them will have to occupy certain positions in divinity, even if these positions will not be everlasting or eternal, but they would have earned them by successfully deceiving blacks. And so today we have all kinds of people occupying media used by the system as demons, because the opposite of a demon is an angel, which is a messenger or someone of knowledge or intelligence who works for a perfect order rather than what we have currently today. And so here we are as adults, always preoccupied with media, whether watching video games or movies or anything else, trying to be relevant or seen as intelligent. And even have politicians and journalists who are always occupying our spaces, feeding us junk information, while they are totally ignorant as to why we exist in this dimension in the first place. And the dimension itself has a code, which is the golden ratio of the divine proportions. And no one in their intelligent minds has ever asked themselves as to why we truly exist in this world and what can be done to change the affairs. Lastly, you can only address and re-establish a nation by proper use of media. So if you don't have intelligent people on media trying to solve your national or racial problems, you won't have a nation. You'll have a people. In other words, individuals who are competing for relevance as well as jobs against a nation which has a universal as well as a racial agenda, such as white people who have religion as well as commercial means to manipulate and govern our lives, as well as to harvest the energies of our lives. And so blacks are not a people because they lack proper leadership. Excuse me, they are not a nation because they have no racial agenda and they lack proper moral leadership to help them find their way out of the bad situations they are in. And so that's what sets the record between a nation as well as a people. The prophets as well, the angels as well as the demons. The angels are the intelligent people we meet on social media who are teaching and sharing powerful information all for free. And the demons are the ones who pay for expensive information at universities, the ones we see on TV and all other forms of mainstream media, which is used to keep us from knowing the truth of our essence in order to rebuild ourselves. And so we are in this situation because we choose to continue being deceived. And I hope you enjoy this message, as unique as it can be, because that's exactly my preference of delivery, to be as unique and as original as I can be. Thanks for your time again. It's your brother, the messenger, aka Mtunzi Masolo by birth.